All right, everyone. It is a Tuesday morning here. Welcome to Snow. Or I almost said Snow Talk. You almost got me. Welcome to Storm Talk. Would you take snow on an 80-degree day? Probably not. If it could snow at 80 degrees, probably. Welcome to Storm Talk, the latest blog update where we're going to cover the setup for not only the current storms we've got outside, but the storm setup as we head into the next 24 hours, certainly as we head into your Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night. A lot to track there. We're going to try to cover what to expect on timing, which I know is probably the number one question at the moment, is timing. We'll cover timing. Then we're going to cover the aspect of impact and what are some of the things that stand out that may actually lessen our severe risk. And on the flip side, what could actually enhance it a bit more. So a lot to cover here as we head to the next few moments. First, I got to get rid of a spammer who is already in the chat. Man, they're fast. It's like they know when alert days are about to happen. It's happening real quick. Hold on one second. Did I get them? I think I got them. Let me make sure. If I see any more, let me know. All right. Nope. They're back. Man, that's a sneaky one there today. All right. Welcome, everyone. I can see your comments, by the way. Good morning to Marianne. Those of you that are not watching on, if you're watching on the app or the streaming service like Roku or Fire Stick, you're not seeing the comments flash up. I apologize. I'm going to try to keep repeating them. But they are able to get through, including one from YouTube right there. Hello, how are you doing? Good morning to you. Hello to Laura as well. Let's see, Brandon, enhanced risk for Wednesday. Models look to have higher dew points for tomorrow. Dew point. Yes, we will talk about the dew point setup. And Tim, our storm chaser down in Southern Kentucky, where's my thunder and lightning? Well, we have it in part of the area right now. I'll show you that here in just a second. I know he's ready to go. All right. So if you guys are ready to cover this, type 1 if you got your number 2 pencil ready, got your Scantron, got your crayons, whatever you need to jot all this down. Type 1 if you're ready. Type 3 if you want to go back to bed. And I got a feeling there's probably going to be a lot of 3s here today. Good morning, Diana on YouTube right now from Paoli. You guys actually had a few storms not too far away from you there this morning. Thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. All right. A lot of ones up. Got a few 3s. I knew they were going to show up. I knew it. All right. So let's, I got enough 1s. I think everyone's ready. So let's cover the setup, where we stand right now. The outlooks that are out. It's really a late tonight issue for areas west of 65. Then we get into tomorrow. And yesterday was kind of a weird one on this outlook because it started off as being a slight risk for part of the area, then a marginal. In other areas, they did a rare update yesterday afternoon. You guys probably saw the social media post that came out yesterday afternoon. Then they expanded the slight risk for everyone. And then this morning they expanded it all and we're actually upgraded that entire zone back into an enhanced. So we're back up now to a level 3 when some of you were 1 less than 24 hours ago. So what has changed? The big factor in this system, which is way different than what we had Friday, is the speed of the system is slow. Now, a couple things with that. When you have a slow-moving cold front and a very warm and humid environment, you can get multiple rounds of thunderstorms in that setup because the cold front is your saving grace, right? I mean, it's a devil's advocate as far as triggering the storms, but it clears the air. Once it moves by, you're good. You're fine for the rest of the night or day, whenever it happens. But the front moving so much slower, it puts us into the danger zone a lot longer. It also allow for more heating of the day to get involved, more humidity, chance to get back into the 80s again tomorrow. And the third issue, which we need to really watch, is I see the spammer. I got him. Is flooding, because now you're dealing with the potential for multiple rounds of thunderstorms that could impact some of the same spots over and over. So yes, there is a chance some of you, if not most of you, will see more than one round come your way as we head into your Wednesday. And that's what we need to also watch for any flooding potential. Now, typically in storm scenarios like this, as you'll see in FutureCast, you get multiple rounds. You can get at least some stabilization of the air, right? You get rain, cooled air. It can calm things down. In some cases, that will work tomorrow, but not in all. All right, let's talk about the current setup. Some of you already commented. You got thunder and lightning into the range. We got some light rain. Obviously, it rained there. It's Huber's Orchard and Winery. The numbers outside, it's been a warm night, and it's going to be a good 10 degrees warmer than this tonight for low temperatures. So if your AC did not kick on last night, it will likely do that today and again tonight, because it is a much more humid environment we're getting into the next 24 hours. But 64 now, 63 down to E-Town. The downpours, it's really hard to see these thunderstorms. This is on the leading edge of the warm front. They moved right across areas of southern Indiana, Crawford County, Washington County, into Clark. And now they're holding on still in northern areas of Henry County, just east of Bedford, now in Trimble County, and right across I-71 into Carroll. They are not severe. They're elevated, which basically means the bases, the bellies of the clouds, are relatively high up. So your main threat you get with this is, well, not only lightning and thunder, but you also will get some small hail that can form. And this spammer is relentless. Unless it's one of y'all and I'm blocking you 20 times. Sorry about that. Anyway, you can get small hail with this, although I have yet to see any hail reports. I wouldn't be surprised, though, in a couple of the updrafts here. It's about to move out. I mean, it's almost out of our area into Owen County here very, very soon. But for those of you in northern areas of Henry County, not far from Campbellsburg, you've had a little burst of heavier rain. Moving off to the east. I wouldn't rule out there could be a couple spots here on the backside of this that could still try to redevelop. It's got a time limit of maybe another 1 to 2 hours. You can see a few cumulus clouds trying to bubble up there near, say, Lawrence County, not too far away from Du Bois County. There is a chance one or two could still form. They would track along the front to the east, but at the same time, the front is heading north. So it kind of will grab them, and then it moves them at kind of a slant motion to the northeast. So they would not head toward Louisville is what I'm trying to say. They would head more towards Cincinnati if they were to still pop. But I wouldn't rule it out, because it is fairly common to see thunderstorms and downpours pop in a warm front like this. It is possible. So just want to make sure you guys are aware these are not severe. Now, here's the next issue, cloud cover. We've got quite a bit of it in the area, so we haven't seen a lot of clearing yet. However, the models are accounting for the idea that we would be mostly cloudy at this time, and they're betting on the idea of the thinning that will happen fairly quick this afternoon. And it may take until about 1 or 2 o'clock. But once that happens, that's when the temperatures soar into those 80s for the afternoon period. But then we're capped. Remember, I talked about the lid on the pot of boiling water on the stove. The lid is being put on us as I talk to you all. So that is good, because if we didn't have that today, it would be much more active of a setup, which it did look like last week, that today could have been a day where if we didn't have the lid, it would have been very busy for us. But that is our protector. That's a good thing. We want that lid to stay on the stove today, so we don't have any issues with that. And so far, that's the trend. Now, we can go by weather models to assess the atmosphere, because we do not launch weather balloons in Louisville. The closest they are located when they launch twice a day in the morning at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., Cincinnati or Wilmington, Ohio, and Nashville. Those are the two closest spots. And what we do basically from those weather balloons, we can certainly in the mid to upper layers of the atmosphere assess, because it would be generally the same in the Ohio Valley, what their atmosphere is. They're not always the best, though, in detecting what's happening right at the immediate ground level. In some cases, you will have weather service offices like Cincinnati or Nashville will help, and they'll launch an additional balloon in the middle of the day just to capture anything they possibly can. And it's mainly because cost-saving measures, too, on weather balloons, but they still do launch them, still to this day. Very old technology that we use on that, but it's one of the best. So they launched them this morning. We're getting some of the data on the ones from Wilmington and Nashville now. I'm not sure if there's going to be a midday release of the balloons or not. I'll let you know. I got a feeling it'd be more of an issue of launching them in the Midwest, where this is already going to be a big problem today. You can already see the warnings, already severe thunderstorm warnings, mainly for hail, breaking out in eastern areas of Iowa. But that's where the worst of the severe weather will be today. It will be located across the Midwest. This is a very familiar looking severe map, and we didn't have to wait a week to see this, just a few days, and it's nearly identical. With the moderate risk across Iowa into Illinois, and then you've got another moderate risk into the Ozarks. A little more west by a hair of what they had on Friday. Mainly, again, the difference here, the severe risk with Friday, it went all the way, if you remember, into the Ohio Valley and all the way down to Mississippi. It kind of bowled out because they were moving so fast. With this front moving slow, a lot of this activity that pops here today pops, falls apart, repops, and falls apart. And it doesn't get a whole lot of eastern progression. So that's the reason why there's a sharp cutoff on the eastern side, because it doesn't really make a lot of real estate to the east there. But it will as we head into your Wednesday. Breaking down the severe risk, in case you're just curious on how that looks in a more detailed aspect, the tornado potential is once again into Iowa, as you might imagine, the moderate risk. Same story into Missouri. Potential is there for 1 or 2 long track tornadoes. I don't see the wind fields as insane as they were on Friday, so we should not have the same number of tornadoes, but one's too many. And it does look like there will be some tornado warnings certainly issued today in the Midwest. So got friends or family there. I'm sure they're fully aware of that because it's been the whole talk as of late is that area. Your hail potential, large hail, certainly across closer to the low pressure like we saw even with the last system. And your damage and wind threat, again, not as strong. It's there, it's elevated, but we had hatched areas, the damage and winds on Friday because the straight line wind threat was such a big ordeal because the fast motion of these storms. You notice we don't see that as often for tomorrow. Now, as we into later on tonight, the severe risk does extend down toward or to the east into Evansville and just west of Louisville to account for anything that can get into the area after midnight through sunrise, because these outlooks will go all the way to about sunrise. So it is accounting for 1 or 2 cells or even clusters that could still push in later tonight. We'll monitor this. We'll let you know if there's anything trying to sneak in from the west. The atmosphere is still, even at this point, for late tonight, early tomorrow, has a protection here. It's more what we call an inversion that'll happen. So the storms would be elevated. So in other words, the bases are low into Missouri. And then as the storm gets east of the Wabash and heads toward the Ohio River Valley, the bases of the clouds start to go up. So your severe risk begins to dwindle, more of an issue of hail than anything. But you still got to watch them because that's accounting for the current trend on motion. If they're moving faster than expected, they could still cause a few problems. But I'm not too worried about severe weather for at least through midnight. After midnight, we'll have to keep an eye on what's happening in Missouri. And then we get into tomorrow. This is where the enhanced is out. Look at that. All of Indiana and nearly all of the state of Kentucky is in the enhanced risk. That's, again, level 3 out of 5. Breaking that down, much more of an issue closer to the low pressure itself. That's where your large threat for hail will be. We'll look at that a little more in a second. These will have a higher count on hail than the last system did. We've got more heat, more instability in fuel, and dew points are higher. Yes, you can get more hail of an issue there. Damage and wind threat, no hatched area, but it's certainly on the table for just about everyone watching right now for that high wind potential and the tornado potential, which is always the one everyone looks at. Couple strong tornadoes closer to the low pressure. You can get them into our area down into Tennessee, but they would be more isolated and embedded in some of the clusters of storms that move through. It's not a tornado outbreak type of scenario. Usually you only get 1 or 2 that can rotate, and they don't always touch the ground, but they could certainly rotate for sure. And that could still trigger a tornado warning, which Weather Service, of course, always tries to issue if there's a sign that one could drop down at any moment. They always issue those warnings as far in advance as they possibly can. That's always the goal, right? So let me walk you through a couple of models. This is our in-house model. While you guys can't see this, you weather watchers, model watchers out there, you can't get this one. So I always try to at least show it on the air here, but it's got us, again, going mostly sunny. It's going to be windy. So as that sun comes out, the wind's going to ramp up. Boom, there we go into the 80s. The record today is 87. For now, I think that's safe. For now. Then tonight, clouds increase as the dew point rises. You see a couple of frames there. Some of those thunderstorms were trying to push into the west, and they just fell apart as they get closer to Louisville and I-65 at around sunrise tomorrow morning, because, again, they just did not have enough fuel to work with at that point as they head east because they're not rooted enough. They're not low enough basis. But once we get into the day on Wednesday, though, we are going to be set up for such a slow moving front. We can easily see a little bit of sun. Even a small amount of sun is going to push our numbers up back into the 80s we go, and we start dealing with thunderstorms developing on the radar. At this point, at 4 in the afternoon, the front is still way to our west. That's not good. Tomorrow is a day where you do not want sun. We say that often in these severe potential days. Tomorrow is certainly one of them. You don't want sun. That would enhance the hail potential for sure tomorrow if we were to get some sun. But these clusters of storms, here's the one thing to note about it. The whole line, the cold front is heading east. The motion, though, for the storms is nearly northeast. I mean, they're going to be very sharp angle heading north. So they're getting on a track of heading northeast. At the same time, the cold front is slowly but surely trying to inch them along. That's the reason why it takes so long to get through these type of outbreak days, because you end up with multiple warnings over several hours that can happen. It's got a cluster that tries to move in the afternoon all the way through sunset, and you think you're done, and then Southern Kentucky, they fire up again. And here we are at midnight tomorrow night, and we're still dealing with potential for warnings. That's nearly an 8 to 12 hour window of potential warnings we could have into wave country. It's far different than Friday, which was about 4 hours. Then eventually the front, I mean, it stalls, basically. It gets stuck, so the rain may linger into your Thursday. Here's the HER model. It's updating right now. I haven't seen the brand newest one. I saw a few frames of it. It looked fairly similar, but you can see that it's got the idea. It's day of the 80s, no problem there. You start to see some hints of something that tries to move in from the west tomorrow morning, but it struggles a bit. But then we get into where we're heating things up. We're getting back into the 80s, and here come the clusters of storms rolling through the area. This is one of those setups I mentioned before about how rain cold air will play a factor for some. The reason how this is looking anyway is that the storms will form. You'll get a severe risk. I'm just doing an example. I'm not saying it's going to be here in Indiana, but I'm only give you an idea. Storms will fire up. They track quickly to the northeast. You get rain cooled air, calms you down for most of that zone. The exception is going to be the southern edge of that. You're still at risk, even though you may have had thunder and lightning and storms passing to your north. They will redevelop very close to your spot, just a little more to the southwest, and they will then follow nearly the same exact path that the previous storm did. That will keep repeating itself until the front gets through. So it's not a solid line of severe weather that moves into the area tomorrow. It's a cluster moves through, maybe a few warnings, a break. Another cluster moves to the northeast, a couple warnings, and then a break. And that will just keep happening. You'll see it in animation moving on by until the front moves by. That's going to make timing for any one location, which I know you're going to ask. Any one location is going to be very difficult. So right now, everyone's going to have to just follow that window, which we're given roughly 3 to 11 o'clock tomorrow p.m. as just a window to be on guard. Obviously, as soon as the front clears your area, you're done, you're fine, you're okay. And it may be a little earlier than that if you get enough rain cooled air. It's possible. But unfortunately, for those of you in southeast areas of wave country and central and southern Kentucky, you will be some of the last to be cleared from that threat. You guys are used to that, but tomorrow is certainly going to be a standout for that. Now, again, some of these storms will have some damage and wind potential. The tornado potential is not very high, but you got to watch out for some of these cells that, well, if they get a little bowing echo, you get a little bit of a wiggle in them. You got to watch the wiggles. But you can get some hail out of these as well as they move on by. And I think one of the bigger issues that we really need to watch, though, is because these keep repeating themselves, we could end up with flash flooding in some cases. Then the storm moves out and moves out of here. Now, the HER model, what's cool about it is we can break that threat down even more on the hail potential side of things. Again, it's a good thing today we do not have the lid off, because we would have large hail being produced today if we had storms firing up this afternoon. But you can see overall, the hail isn't too large until we get to tomorrow. That is when we get enough heating, the hail size starts to increase. 1 inch, by the way, is severe. So you start seeing a lot of 1 inch markers there. Here's the thing. This is the model indicating the hail potential size. What it doesn't always see the best is that if we are warmer than expected, that hailstone is going to melt as it falls to the ground. So the size in reality will be a little smaller than what the modeling is showing. So I know it's indicating that we could see, nickel-size hail up to quarter-size hail fall in the area. It may be a little smaller in some spots, but there could be 1 or 2 exceptions to that, and that's what we need to watch for, certainly warnings when it comes to just the hail side of things. And then we're done, and it diminishes. These are mainly heating-based, daytime, sunlight, heating of the day. That's what the hail's going to be based on tomorrow. So if we get sun, your hail threat will start to go up. Your potential rotation tracks, one of the newer features in the model everyone loves. A couple of things stand out on this. I didn't see a lot of strong markers on this on Wednesday. There are a couple spots that stand out with a few rotating storms. Again, it's going to be hard to track these, but you see a few that try to form in West Kentucky, Southwest Indiana. The one signal that was trying to show up there, and I think I zoomed past it, let me back it up, was right through here. When we get it to about 5 to 8 o'clock, there are a couple of markers that stand out that could show some rotation. As to be clear, this does not mean tornadoes, all right? It just gives us an idea, certainly as meteorologists, where we need to keep an eye on the idea there could be at least some rotation. And in many cases, rotation like that, a strong updraft, can mean large hail. It doesn't always mean a tornado, but it certainly puts tornado potential on the table. It doesn't take it off, that's for sure. And the last thing is going to be the rainfall side. This is from the graph model, and not a single model is going to get this right, because not a single model is really going to nail how these are going to evolve, how the clusters will move, how far east they go. Models are just not that good. I mean, they're good, don't get me wrong, but they're not that good. But I can tell you that the atmosphere has the potential tomorrow to produce 1.8 inches of rain per hour. That's its potential. So if you end up with a heavy rain band, or more than one in 1 hour, in an hour's time, you could get 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, and that could cause flash flooding. So if you have had issues with that as of late, just pay extra attention. And if you notice the rain outside, it just is not easing up. It just keeps lingering. Then you see that there's a problem you need to pay attention to. So here's your time. Overall, this is for Wednesday. We'll watch the morning trends for anything that can move in from the west. Right now, that risk remains low, but it's not zero. I just don't think until we get a little more heating of the day going, we're not going to have too much on the severe side. But once we get some heating going, then I do think we're going to end up with some warnings. And as I'm trying to caution as much as I can here, guys, it's not a one-shot deal of warnings. It could be warnings every 2 to 3 hours in a few clusters that move on by, and then we're done. So it's going to be a very long day. And you can customize your alerts. If you don't want to get alerts all day long for other counties or the areas, you can always customize that on the Wave Weather app and on the NOAA Weather Radio as well. But I highly advise you guys to stay close to the forecast changes, because I know what's going to happen. Because this afternoon, the sun's going to come out. We're going to jump in the 80s. Everyone's going to be excited. But we get to enjoy the 80s today with all the weather drama, without all the weather drama happening. Tomorrow, the sun's going to come out. It's spring break. Everyone's going to run outside. Oh, it's in the 80s. It's great. But that would be a bad thing tomorrow. So I don't want your guard to be let down. Keep an eye on the cumulus clouds. You can see them getting larger in the distance. The towering cumulus, we call those. That's a sign that a storm's coming your way. Everyone, when you look at the Wave Weather app itself and on the radar function, look to your west-southwest. That is where you need to look in relation to your location in your county to see if there's anything red showing up there that's heading your way. So look west-southwest, and in some cases almost due south. That's where the storms will be coming from tomorrow. That's what you need to pay attention to. Not from the northwest, southwest. All right. Whew. I'm already sweating in here. It's been a long talk today. What questions can I answer for you guys? Let's see. Marty, traveling I-75 coming north from Tennessee be dangerous on Friday? No, everything's fine on Friday. You're good. It will drive through some rain and thunderstorms, but the front would have completely stalled at that point. At the end of the week, it'll be lingering in the southeast corner of the country, so it is going to be rainy for much of the drive, but your severe threat is going to ease back tremendously. Let's see. Tim's looking for no lid area. There you go. There you go. Now, there is a thing to mention. There, you can get storms that can bust the cap. We say that. That's just unlikely today because there's so much warming above our head. So I don't see that being an issue, which is good. But yeah, sometimes this is what's weird about this one. This is a mix of a spring severe weather scenario and a summer one. You can get downburst winds with this kind of fuel tomorrow. So you get more of your straight line damaging winds in burst. Those are much harder to detect on radar in advance compared to even rotation. So that'll be a bit of a challenge tomorrow. But sometimes you can call these wet microbursts. You can get those sometimes. So it's, again, a mix of a July weather day and an April one for sure. So it's got two different types of severe weather, if you will. If you're a spotter especially, and you understand that difference, that's how tomorrow would look. Ryan, any significant tornadoes into Indiana? The closer you are to the low, so central northern Indiana, and it's about the same spot, to be honest, it got hit. So Sullivan, near Terre Haute area north, there could be some tornado warnings issued. I don't know if anything would be long tracked, but that potential is certainly there for a few of those cells because the wind fields are stronger the more closer you are to the red L, the low pressure itself on the map. We're a little further away. So we're close enough that we are in that zone, but it would be a lot worse if we were closer. Usually around here, if you run into large hail in your area, that's usually a cell you need to start watching for a tornado warning to get issued. If your hailstones get larger than golf ball size out the window, that should be a red flag in your mind that this is a strong storm, and usually those come with tornado warnings. Not all the time, but usually around here, golf ball size or larger, and that usually triggers a tornado warning around here. So hail size can tell you a lot, but I think tomorrow too, a lot of them will be melting, so I do think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. Hey, Corey, how you doing, my friend? I was talking about you Christmas with my cousin Derek there. Let's see, Rebecca, do you believe the enhanced will stay or get moved to moderate? That's a good question. Right now, the only thing that I would see, Rebecca, that would increase the moderate for Indiana would be the idea that if the sun came out for like 2 or 3 hours and we end up back in the mid 80s tomorrow. Then yeah, and that may be primarily because of hail, but it could be. I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out. It is certainly possible. Let's see, Anonymous. How mysterious. What type of wind gust are we looking at tomorrow? Yesterday we gusted to 35 miles per hour when the sun came out. That got us in the mid 70s. I think we could see similar gusts up to 40 at times tomorrow. Even today, it's going to be windy. Tomorrow, gusts could be around 40 off and on through the day, especially if we get partly sunny, which is not good. Let's see. Lynette, how much of a severe threat will there be for Greensburg? I'm assuming you mean down into Greene County there. That's where my mom's from, is Greensburg. Down in Greensburg, your threat is there. It'd be later, and it may be closer to supper time to about midnight for you guys. Kristen, what about the Cape for tomorrow? The Cape tomorrow depends on the sun. Right now, with a mostly cloudy setup, it's coming in at about 12 to 1500, which is pretty high. Today it's 25 to 2800, FYI. Thank goodness we've got the lid. Tomorrow it is lower, but I do think certainly if the sun comes out, we will see that probably approach 2000. So that, again, increases your damage and wind potential, but certainly looking at your hail potential. One more question that I got to get running here because it's 9 after 10 and I got a lot to do still. Let's see. Where was the question at? Brian, still looking at a colder pattern for mid-April. That is a good question. There is one cooler shot that can happen as we head into Tuesday next week, depending on how this low interacts. It's going to be dropping down. No severe weather, by the way, with that. In fact, after this system, our severe threat really diminishes for a while, which is good. But that's the only cool shot we have because there are growing signs just in time now for thunder over Louisville. Well, the GFS is right, which it says a lot. GFS wants to push us near 90 for thunder over Louisville. Yikes. We'll see how that plays out in the next few days. But that's the storyline, right? Most of the cool shots this season, they show up. And yeah, it gets cooler a bit. Boy, it's tough to get anything substantial. The warm air just keeps fighting back. All right, guys, that's it for now. Stay safe. Stay close to Wave Weather app, and we will keep you updated.